Hello there and welcome back to another one of my thrilling videos. It's great to be back. So today we're going to be looking at the JVC DV3 EK and what a lovely little camera it is. This little beauty right here is 25 years old. Happy birthday. The format of the video is going to be much the same as you're used to. I had some really nice feedback from people in regards to the last video where I had some notes and did a little bit of history and things like that. So we're going to kind of keep it in that format again, and any feedback is warranted. And just to say as well, I'm also wearing a little Rode, I think is it lavalier microphone, which is connected up to my Wireless Go microphones. So let me know if you think that the audio quality is any better. So how should we go about this today? Well, I think we should just start by saying, you know, just reminding everybody that this camera right over here, the JVC DV3, came out in 1998. It wasn't the first mini DV camera, we'll get to that in a minute. But one of the most amazing things about this camera, and I've had this camera a while in my cupboard and I just totally forgot to do a review on it. One of the most amazing things is that this has got Firewire built into it. Yes, you heard that right, a camera from 1998. Now, those of you that are bigger nerds out there than me will probably go, yeah, but I had no idea. I had no idea that Firewire technology was available in 1998. So that's a really cool feature about that camera. Just wanted to say that before we start. Okay, so as I said, 1998. 1998 was a cool year for movies. And if you don't know, I'm a big movie fan. But let's just set the scene. It's 1998. I'm a 17-year-old. Just left school, going into college. I was studying IT. I absolutely hated it. I guess that's to my detriment, because if I had graphed IT, I'd probably be a billionaire right now. But yeah, 1998, so I'm 17 years old, probably got some zits on my face, smoking cigarettes, you know, that kind of thing. You know, you've all been there. But yeah, big year for films. Fantastic years for films, actually. So let's just go back and remind ourselves what was in the cinema. Well, you had Titanic. And that's funny because Titanic, 25 years ago, so anniversary, and you know, the director James Cameron's also got one of the biggest box office movies in the cinemas right now, of Avatar: Way of the Water. So there you go. Also in 1998 we had Saving Private Ryan, we had Godzilla. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. Good Will Hunting, classic film. The Truman Show, classic film. X-Files: Fight the Future, maybe not classic, but I love the X-Files. Rugrats movie, Halloween H2O, American History X, and Blade. Some absolute gems of films. And whilst they're kind of making my notes for this video, I was thinking about 1998, and I kind of had a thought that maybe this seems like a transitional year. To me, this was like the real beginning of the shift from analog to digital. What do you think? VHS to DVD, high 8 to mini DV. I mean, obviously the latter formats were still popular, but actually instead of 1999, I'm thinking maybe 1998 was where the real shift was, right at the start, even with the internet. Everything was in its infancy, but this shift from analog to digital, this feels like the place. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, so the DV3, let's talk about this camera. It seems to be the successor, at least in design, to the DV1, which was the first consumer mini DV camcorder on the market in 1996. So just to clarify, JVC launched the first ever mini DV camcorder in 1996. It's hard to get your head around. Even some of these facts that I was finding out, I was like, really? Can't believe that. But yeah, at least in regards to its design, the DV3 seems to be the closest you're going to get to the DV1. Now, I did have a look for the DV2, and there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing online. Now, I'm going to guess that maybe whilst I was trying to make a true successor to the DV1, the DV2 either never came out, there was no model called the DV2, or maybe it's called something else. But if you know what model came after this, again, please let me know. But I gotta say, I think it's a lovely camera. I really do. I've played around for this, obviously, of making this video, and I just think it's a joy. I've had a real good time playing around with this camera. And I must say, looking objectively at this camera in 2023, 25 years since it come out. I mean, I'm really, really impressed with the overall package which came to market. I really am. Now, a little bit later, I'll show you what came in the box and we'll have a little conversation about the camera and this lovely AC docking station, like someone off of a quiz show. But other than the camera, there is just two standout things that I'd like to talk to you about. Now, I've already mentioned one of those things, and that is the Firewire capability, but also it's the AC docking station, which is just fantastic. It really, really was forward thinking. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on, and then we'll do all the close-ups of the cameras and stuff like that. So first and foremost, Firewire. Okay, I got a little bit obsessed whilst, making this video, so I hope you enjoy this next section. So, like I said, I got the camera out of the box, and I remember seeing on the side of it, iLink, and I was thinking, Firewire? This is crazy. So, like I've written in my notes, I was genuinely surprised by the fact that this camera had Firewire support. However, to use this feature, it was to be used in conjunction with the AC charger station. You couldn't just plug the digital out into the camera, which is where it's located. You had to use the charging station, but we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Now, I knew about Firewire, having been introduced to it on my first iMac in 2005, but I was genuinely surprised when I learned that this technology was a lot older than I thought. I did a little bit of research around Firewire, also known, you'll like this, as IEEE 1394, also known as iLink by Sony, or Lynx by a company called Texas Instruments. So you couldn't just call it Firewire. I mean, that would be too easy, right? That would be too easy. No, we're going to call it Firewire, but it's also got another name called IEEE 1394, or if you're Sony, you're going to call it iLink, or if you're Texas Instruments, you're going to call it Lynx. I mean, talk about confusion in the market. But anyway, I was quite surprised by what I found. So Firewire technology was actually developed by Apple. I didn't know that. As early, apparently, as 1986, and was a method to transfer data more effectively. Now, there is a slight caveat here. I have also found other articles stating it was invented in the mid-1990s. So maybe the earlier references are referring to like the research and development start of Firewire. Again, if you know and you'd like to share with the community in the comments, please do so. Anyway, did you know Apple actually won an award for Firewire in 2001? But do you know what they won it for? Do you know? Well, it was a Primetime Emmy Engineering Award. Who would have thought? I had no idea. I mean, I probably shouldn't have any idea, but how cool is that? They actually won an award, and this award was for Firewire's impact on the television industry. And I mean, really, I don't think we can argue with that, really. Well, with such an award, I suppose I should say, because it made things so much easier when it come to editing and workflow. So yeah, did you know that about Firewire? I certainly didn't. And also, during the making of this video, I was kind of curious, and I wondered when Firewire ports might have been included on Apple iMacs. And it seems it was from 1999. Now, this makes sense when you consider the fact that Apple's first iMac was launched in August 1998. However, I found an article which stated that Firewire had been available as a build-to-order option on some Apple computers from 1997. So I think this must be accurate when you consider the camera I'm reviewing launched in 1998. So it seems that the tech was certainly being adopted quite early on. So, did you find that interesting? Okay, so the other standout feature of this camera, for me at least, is the AC charger station. And we'll have a little bit of a look at that closer up shortly. And it's just brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. To me, it is so forward thinking. It has everything on it to help you achieve what you require. It has your AV out, it has an S video out. You can dock it and do digital out in the sense of Firewire. I was just surprised, really surprised. And the thing is, when this unit was created to go with this camera, you know, who would have thought that 25 years on, it would still be able to be used in conjunction with iMacs. I mean, that is amazing, just amazing. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. This is great. However, there are a couple of drawbacks, and I will just talk to you about what they are now. So if you were to lose this charger station, there doesn't appear to be another way you can charge your battery. So that's a bummer. But when you consider what you could do with the charger station, you would not want to lose it. Because what's great about it is not only can you charge a battery in this area here, but if you've also got another battery in the camera, it will also charge that when it's docked. Amazing, amazing. So you wouldn't want to lose it. And also, it seems like there was a little known fault with the Firewire connectivity. This is brilliant. This is great. I told my friend this the other day, and he just laughed about this. So it seems that in regards to like the Firewire connectivity, instead of fixing this known fault that existed in the camera, they just left it and decided to inform the consumer on page 59 of the instructions. So let me go to page 59 of the instructions. Here we go. And on this part, it's digital dubbing. Now, there's a few areas here, but I'm reading from the notes section. And it says, even though the DV cable is connected correctly, sometimes the image may not appear in step 3. If the above occurs, turn off power and make connections again. And I had that exact problem even today. I would plug it into the Mac. It would recognise the JVC camera. You could control the unit from the Mac, but there'd be no picture. So what you'd have to do is turn it all off, turn it all on again, and then suddenly it would recognise it. So that fault still exists in the camera. But I just love the fact that they was like, oh yeah, there's a bit of a fault here. Should we fix it? Nah, don't worry about it. We'll just put it in the instructions booklet. Brilliant, I love that. Annoying, but just made me laugh. Okay, I think I've talked enough. I hope I haven't bored you to death, but I don't know. You need to tell me. If I am, you say, Adrian, get on with the video, then I will. So what we're going to do now, we're going to have a little bit of a closer look at the camera, the docking station and the accessories. And then as always, after that, I'm going to share some footage that I shot with my friend Ben. This is the last time you've seen this ugly mug. Let me know what you think of the video and I'll see you all next time. Cheers. Okay, so what did we get in the box? And even the box was almost brand new, other than a little tear in the front, like pretty much everything was in here. So let's just try and open that up so you can see. So we have the instructions, which is always useful, obviously. Which way should we go? Tell you what, let's start over on the left-hand side. So we have a little SCART adapter. That's the power mains for that. So it's got the remote control. Still sealed. And what else have we got in here? An empty plastic bag. A little weight for the wires. We got the little hand grip. And then this was great because actually in the box you got like 4 loads of cables. So you've got like 2 AV cables. One could be used in conjunction with the camera on its own. The other one with the AC charger station. You've got an S-video cable and an editing cable all in there, so 4 loads of editing cables, which is great. Just over here you've got a little still sealed JVC mini DV that can stay in the box nice and snug. Then you have the most amazing little charging station we talked about, we'll talk about shortly. There you have it. And then last but not least, we have the camera. There you go. And I believe that is everything in the box. So let's have a closer look. Now I'm not going to worry too much about the cables because they're just basically AV cables to connect up to the back, but we will have a look at the docking station, show you the back of that, have a look at the camera, and we'll also have a look at the remote control. So let's start with the remote control because they were nice remotes back then. They were quite fancy, and you know, these aren't doing anything that you wouldn't expect of a remote. It's got your standard like zoom in, zoom out, your start, your stop, and then things that you can use, for example, when you're, say for example, connected to a television, rewind, play, record, effects. So I just really like the form factor of these. You know, they're really thin, they're really slim, and when you consider some of the other remotes we'd get in like the noughties and even like the late noughties, they're a lot thicker. So just a really nice thin, you'd expect to get a remote like this today, not 25 years ago. So yeah, really like that. Okay, so let's talk about the AC docking charging station, whatever you want to call it. Now, I don't want to keep banging on about this, but I love this. I think it's fantastic. So let's just talk a little bit about this. So if we just start on the left-hand side, you have the DC outs. Now, I wasn't going to get any of the cables out, but there's one that's important. And the reason that is because this is when you would use the DC out. Now, all those of you familiar with technology, here is like a dummy battery. You would put that into the camera base, and then you would connect that into the DC jack here. And basically, you wouldn't be able to charge the batteries when you were doing that. But if you just wanted to run the camera from the mains, that is what you would use. Okay, so now let's look at the front of the unit. Now you can see right there, it says release and lock, and that's what it does exactly. Now, when you lock it, this little mechanism here, or this little pin or adapter, that will come up. So for example, if you see here, it says press left to lock. So if you press it, you'll see that it raises up off the base, and that will connect to the bottom of the camera right there. But we'll get onto that in a moment. So that is all that is on the front there. And then as you're on the top here, you can see you've got some little LEDs. So you've got camera when it's docked, the power if it's charging, and then charger, so a little charging light. So all of these things will tell you what exactly is going on the dock, and we'll have a look at that shortly. Here is a little unit to charge a battery. So that is where you would charge your battery, and we'll give you the indicator here. Now, turn it around to the back. Right, so we have edit, JLIP, which I had no idea what it was before I started doing this, S out, and then you have your yellow, your white, and your red outs. So obviously all of these here, everyone's familiar with these with the audio and your video outs. It's quite self-explanatory. Here, if you don't know, that is S video. So that was a jump up from your standard AV outs, and you would take your video out of there and the audio out of the unit. You wouldn't require the video out. This gave you a slightly better video quality. Now, JLIP. Do any of you out there know what JLIP is? Because I had absolutely no idea, and it's some kind of interface, and I had to look up in the instruction manual. There's absolutely nothing in it until right at the very back, and all it says is JLIP, Joint Level Interface Protocol Connector. Connect to a JLIP compatible camcorder or VCR to control it from the computer using JLIP Player Pack, optional. I mean, I'm not going to go into that, I've got no idea, but it was obviously something that somebody would use. And then lastly, edit. So basically, in the box you had a cable. You would put one cable in the end there, and then what you would do is you'd get that fancy little remote, and you probably can't see it through the plastic, but just at the top here, there is a little hole, and you would connect that up, and then basically you would be communicating directly with this. So that's cool, and I just think it's great, isn't it? It's fantastic. Oh, and if any of you are interested, this is model number AA-V60EK. So let's talk about the top of this. So the way that the camcorder would work, and especially if you wanted to use this for Firewire capabilities, you would get the camera. So here's the camera right here, and you would see obviously we need to connect it up to this here. So what you would do, you would put the camera on so it would sit nicely, nice and flush. It kind of sits nicely like that. And then what you would simply do, so I'll just push that back a little bit just there. Let's move the camera up ever so slightly. Is you would push it forward. So first and foremost, you're engaging that. So you're pushing it forward on. And whilst it's pushed on, all we don't want to do is just very gently press the lock mechanism. So now that is locked in place. Now, if you're wanting to, say, for example, use this with Firewire on your computer, or however, whatever you want to call it, you have to have it connected to this dock. And then here, if we pull down this little lip right here, right there is the DV out. So you would then connect your Firewire cable to your computer, and then you'd be able to get the digital images out. But you had to have it connected up to this station. Hope that makes sense. Okay, let's have a quick look at the camera. Now, one thing I forgot to mention earlier on is that obviously this camera has no flip out screen, but it wasn't very long after 1998 that you started to see cameras have flip out screens, and there may well have been flip out screens on the market when this camera came out, but this doesn't have a flip out screen, and initially it's a bit weird, but kind of once you kind of get used to just holding it in one hand and kind of like peeping through it like a periscope, it's okay. So we'll just have a quick look at the camera. So here is the front. You can see the little red LED there to indicate when it is recording. On the front here we have a little flap. Now there is an internal mic right there. We have your AV out, and it stipulates a pair of headphones next to that. So I assume this can be used for both an AV out and a pair of headphones, but as audio does come out, it kind of makes sense. Then here you have the DV out, which I'm still mind blown about. Just put that back in place. So on the front here, it can tell you there 100 times digital zoom, cybercam, and you can see it says iLink, DV terminal, mini DV power. And this camera's in such good condition, it's amazing. So right here, you can see here, it's got a little snapshot button, so if you want to take a picture, you press that. There's no memory card, so it will go straight onto, I believe, the cassette, because there is no memory card in this unit. You slip this down, and this is for specifically in playback mode. You have the stop button, you have the pause and the play button there, you have the rewind and the fast forward, and then you have the little reset button. And I'm assuming the reset's probably to do with data stored, like the memory of the clock and stuff like that. I haven't checked that, but I'm not too concerned about that. Right, flick that back up, I should say. Okay, so moving around to the back of the camera. Right, okay, so at the bottom here, we have a little lever. So you pull that down, and that's where you slip your battery out. So like that. Okay. Now, obviously, because this doesn't have a flip out screen, navigating the menu is a little bit more difficult. So when we turn the camera on, you have a little button right there that says, sorry, I bring it a little bit more to the camera. It says menu, and then on off. And then obviously over here as well, there's like a little button. There's like a little cog, if you can see that. And that clicks in as well. So that acts as a button as well. So that is how you navigate the menu. You kind of move that around, click it, menu end, stuff like that. You have the open and eject button right there to take the cassette out. And as we move up here, we have the zoom at the top here. Sorry about this, it's quite difficult to hold this in front of the camera. And then at the top here we have your cogwheel, and that's your function. So if we turn it back onto here to play, then obviously that starts playback, so we can watch back footage that we've recorded through the viewfinder. If we go to A, then that means that we're in automatic mode and we can start shooting. If we go to M, nothing actually changes, but M allows you to access the menu. So obviously when we saw down here earlier where it said M here, you have to be in M mode. So it doesn't change anything. You're in A, you're shooting, but if you want to access the menu, you just got to flick to M to enable you to do that. And then you have 5S, which is basically a 5-second shooting mode, which is pretty cool. I still like that mode. So if you're at a party, record for 5 seconds and it stops. Record for 5 seconds and then it stops. So simply like a self timer. And then obviously you can see there is a timer option on the top, and you can amend those in the settings. So that is all you have to do, or that is all that is there to be seen on the back of the camera. And then we come to the right hand side and there's nothing. What I do like at the top here, there's like a little bit of information which I think is useful. It says, do not turn viewfinder's eyepiece toward the sun. It may cause malfunction. Well, thank you. And it says, extended use of this unit causes its surface temperature to rise. This is not a malfunction. And that is true. It does get warm. And that was a problem with these cameras, but it's telling you, don't worry, it's not a malfunction. So really, really cool. Then at the top here, you can see your microphone. On your left and your right, stereo digital audio. Okay, so let's turn the camera on. Now obviously nothing appears to be happening. So let's turn around and look at the lens at the front. Oh, well the lens cap appears to still be on it. So how do we sort this out? Well, in order to actually activate this camera, you had to pull out the viewfinder. Like so. And then it makes that wonderful noise. So now this camera's on. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do that again just to show you how the front opens and shuts. So if I get it nicely in the light, keep an eye. Now you see, opens up nicely. You can hear the hum of the DV. You can see that the screen is on. And all you would do is press that middle button right there, right here, and that would start recording. So that is the JVC DV3. What do you think of the camera? Well, I think it's really nice. And before we finish today, I'm just going to quickly give you a tour of the menu. and before the very end of the video, I'm going to connect my Rode Wireless Go mic up to the microphone port to see how well that comes out. So although I said it would be the last time you'd see my ugly mug, I lied. So let's now jump straight in and have a little look at the menu. Okay, so just a brief look at the menu. I was able to record this with the AV cables which I got in the box. So basically, very briefly, you have record mode, and obviously you can cycle between SP and LP. Then you have wide mode, where you can change between squeeze and cinema mode, or have it set to off. Next up, we have zoom, and that can be changed from 40 to 100. Then you have the digital image stabilization that can be turned on or off. You just want that on. There's no argument there. And then underneath that, you've got your gain up. So basically, you can adjust your gain if you so wish. That's pretty straightforward. Just cycling through those menus just there. And then just beneath that, as you can see, you have the date, time menu, system menus to cycle through. We will now go straight into the system menu up next. Okay, so photo mode, that just basically allows you to modify the type of frame around the picture. So you can just see the cycling through those there. So very straightforward. Into scene mode, it allows you to just amend that mode. So for example, if you record a 5-second clip within 5 minutes after the previous one, it dissolves into the next one. And you can also add an animated scene on the end of that. And then very briefly, you have beep and tally mode. Beep, you can turn the beep off, and tally means you can turn the red light off on the front of the camcorder. Wing cut helps you to remove unwanted noise. Sound mode, basically you can change channels from 32 kHz to 48 kHz. Okay, and last and not least is a final menu where everything here is pretty self-explanatory. You have your focus control, your exposure control, your white balance control, and then you have your fader wipes and your picture effects. So here are your fader wipes, and for those of you that are interested, I'm just going to scroll through them now. Pretty self-explanatory. They just provide you with a different fader or a different type of wipe, dependent on what you want to achieve. I mean, I find them funny looking back on these now, because I would never use these type of effects nowadays, but back then they were big deals, and it made you really feel like, you know, you were making something that might be considered professional. So that's the end of that menu, and then we're just going to have a quick look at the picture AE effects, which you should all be familiar with if you use cameras. Here you can just see the reduction or the increasing of a shutter speed, twilight mode, sepia mode, monotone mode, classic film, strobe, and then basically kind of slow motion kind of effects. And there we have it. They are the menus within the camera. Just like around, not too far.
And the drone's just going to stay there.
Yeah.
Hovering.
There is the drone. Ben's helping me do a little test today. Ben, this camera that I'm filming on came out in 1998. Can you believe that?
Yes, I can, because it looks old and strange.
How old was you in 1998, Ben?
I would have been, in October I would have turned 40.
And what was you doing then?
I assume furiously. I was at high school. I was just hanging out playing on the PlayStation 1, I would assume.
Not a Nintendo, no?
Around about that time I probably would have got an N64 as well, but I was more of a PlayStation lad.
Okay, Ben, so what were, can you remember of any standout moments in 1998?
I believe 98 was Manchester United finished second in the Premier League.
Yes.
In the 97-98 season. I believe the iMac might have come out in 98?
I'm going to have to do some fact checking, aren't I?
Yeah, yeah. The FDA approved Viagra. 98, I know that.
I don't know who that's useful to, but it's a good.
I imagine Dolly the Sheep was about that time. I can't remember.
I think X-Files was still on television. Oasis released, what was their third album?
Be Here Now.
That was 97, wasn't it?
97, yeah.
So that would have been the year after. So if you wasn't cool, guess when you would have bought it?
Yeah.
Probably. Oh, and I just want to say before I forget, we are in a field today. And what is this, Ben?
It's a field test.
So I think just one more angle. It's quite muddy, isn't it, actually? I apologise.
It's cold enough for it to have gone quite hard, so it's not too bad.
It's a little bit, the mud on my feet is a little bit, how do you feel being recording on something from 1998?
I feel okay with that. I would probably feel okay being recorded by something from any year, if I'm honest.
So it doesn't make you feel any particular way?
No, I think that it's not really impinging on me in any way. It's not like I'm being stabbed with a camera.
And how does it make you feel about this drone monitoring? Do you think it's going to be okay?
Yeah, I reckon. Well, yeah, I assume so.
You hope so?
I hope so.
So I'm going to bring the drone up. I'm going to see if Ben can film it. It's quite hard to see the viewfinder. Yep. Over there, so I'm bringing him down. My little drone. Quite windy. Come on, my man. Not surprising in this wind. Inactive track, I had to turn it off. That was why. Cool. Now, one thing I almost forgot to tell you, which I thought I'd do right now, this is typical of me, do not forget, the camera which I'm recording on is Firewire capable, but in order to use that, you need to have a number of things if you want to use it on modern day computers. So you can't link it up to your computer without certain cables. So this is just a reminder. So what do you need? Well, to connect up to the current computers, you will need a Firewire 800. Google Firewire 800 and get yourself one of these cables. The end of this cable is what fits in to the DV out on this camera. So what do you need next? Well, at the end of the Firewire 800, we need to plug this into something because we can't plug that into the back of the Mac. So what we need is one of these, and this is a Firewire 800 to Thunderbolt, because back in the day it used to be Thunderbolt on the back of Macintoshes. And then you need a Thunderbolt to micro USB. So you need these cables in order to get them out onto your Mac. But once you do have them, it works. So I just thought I'd throw that in. Do not forget. Okay, what did you think of the video? Or more importantly, what did you think of the camera? Now, as promised, I'm just testing out the Rode Wireless Go microphones with this camera. And the thing is, there's no shoe attachment on the top of the camera. So once I kind of plug that into the microphone port, it's kind of just hanging. But I just kind of wanted to find out whether or not this was actually working as well as I would hope. Is it working well? Let me know. Anyway, this is me signing off, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. Take care.